Hey guys, this is Axel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I haven't posted in a while. It's been probably a couple years. Like I used to post a lot back then. I have like 4 or 5 videos on this. It's mostly like me training back then when I was younger, right? A bit younger, like 2 years ago, 3, 4. So this video is called from MMA champ dreams to chronic illness, right? That's the title of this video, and I was just telling a bit about my backstory and how I got into this condition. So a little bit about my backstory before I get into like the whole nitty gritty. If you guys want to hear more about my backstory, I'll have it the description below. It's like a Spotify podcast I have. It's called True Kings Podcast, and I talk about my whole life story there, and also I interview other people, tell about their life story and stuff. So this video is just gonna be about me, about how I got with this chronic illness and how it affected some aspects of my life. So just a brief summary of my backstory. Grew up pretty good. Grew up in Orange County, California, with two parents, from Mexico, migrated here, and I had a pretty good childhood up until like 10 years old. That's when my dad got heavily into drinking and drugs. Became homeless and whatnot. After that, I also got bullied very heavily from like the ages of like elementary school, so very young, right, to like early high school years. So I remember getting bullied a lot because I was very out of shape little kid, and I was very insecure, very anxious, a little social awkward, and also very poor, so I get picked on for all of that. And I also because of that, I got very into martial arts, right, and like sports, working out, bodybuilding, all this, right. And from the ages of around like 12 years old, so like 6th grade, up until like before I got sick with it, so up until like senior year of high school, I was very into shape. I was very, what you would say, obsessed with that, with bodybuilding, MMA. Like I had to convince in my head that I was gonna become like a famous MMA fighter, or like a famous UFC fighter, like or a famous bodybuilder, something like that, right? Because obviously when you're 15, 16 years old, you don't really have your life planned out yet, but you have a goal of it, right? An image. So I remember I was very addicted to that. I was very heavily dedicated, right? And I would hang out with friends and all this and like family, but I was obsessed with that because of getting bullied all those years, right? Getting picked on and all that, so that gave me like a whole sense of like a perfectionistic mentality towards things, right? There's something called, people like heard the term narcissist, right? Narcissists think about themselves mostly, and like want to be the perfect. They think that they're perfect, or they want to be the perfect selves. But there's two types of narcissism. There's like true narcissism, where you're actually born like that, and there's actually another one where it's called vulnerable narcissist, right? That's where you actually get made like that, like your childhood or like traumatic events, right? Like me getting heavily bullied in my case gave me that trait of vulnerable narcissism, where I had to kind of prove to the world where I wanted to be perfect. And most times, like, you chase that perfection, but perfection doesn't exist. And especially with like vulnerable narcissism and like with perfectionism, like you, even if you think you're better or you're perfect, there's never, like, you always feel bad. You always feel like you always feel like whenever you hurt the most, that's what you feel for the rest of your life, right? So I remember I was very heavily obsessed with MMA, with bodybuilding, everything, dieting, everything. All that I was obsessed with from the age of like 6th grade, 12 years old, to up to like where I got sick. So I was training super hard every day. I would always be hard on myself, never easy on myself, mentally, physically, everything, right? I was always like extremely hard on myself, and I would watch all these YouTubers, right? All these like alpha male YouTubers, like all this, like, they're always like, don't be a bitch, be a man, train hard, like, grind hard, work hard, wake up at 4 a.m. And I would do all this, right? I was like, take it all too hard, especially when you're young, you're a teenager, your brain's still developing. You absorb all this information, especially if you have these traits, right? Which I had, and you take them, like, when they say don't quit, when they say be hard on yourself, some people they'll watch the videos and like, all right, it goes through their brain. Some people, what they might do for a little bit, and they quit or all of this. But for me, or some other people with these traits, these perfectionism traits and all this, they go like, until they can't. So I was doing very hard training, and right now, if you looked at me, you would think like, oh, this guy. If I was walking on the street right now, I could walk now. Before I was bedridden, I couldn't walk. I'll get into that later on in the video. But if you look at myself right now, you would think like, oh, this is a regular guy, right? You wouldn't think that I ever did bodybuilding, or like I was very in shape, or did like, I was like very good at martial arts and all this. But I mean, this, just to show you a couple pictures, like this is me back in the day. I'd say this like 2-3 years ago when I did a bodybuilding competition. Like, like very low body fat. I think right there's like 6-7% body fat. And, this me. I was like in pretty good shape back then. And then that was completely dedicated to that, almost an addiction. Very disciplined. I would work out almost every day, 7 days a week. Like extremely hard. Like especially when I was doing bodybuilding, very hard on diet. Every day, like Christmas, everything like the protein, everything like was on T, and that was very like all the time. And I remember, so I did that for up until senior year. I remember senior year of high school, I was grinding very hard. I was like working part time in this like sporting goods store, also like a fight store. There was some like boxing gloves and all that. I was working there. I was still in high school. I was like, so I was going to school, working out almost every day. I work out in the mornings. I wake up 5 a.m., go to the gym, train, spar, then go back to sleep, go to school, go to work, and after work, go lift weights in the gym, and then I was like training very hard. The fighters who get like a qualifier and all this. So I got that. And I was training very hard, especially those 2 years, like 2020, I was like grinding. And that's what you hear, especially nowadays. Now I think it's kind of dumb, and I don't condone it as much. Like, especially, I know the effects it can have, especially if you're very driven, and don't get me wrong, being confident and being like having goals is good. But if you have a very strong personality, very perfectionistic personality, which I've since been going to like getting help and gone to therapy to cancel that out, because being perfectionist and being hard on yourself all the time is not a good thing, right? Especially for your soul and for your mind, for your nervous system, is not very good at all. Because you don't show yourself a lot of self-love when you're in that position, right, of grinding. Your mind it's not, human beings are not robots. Are not designed to go 100% perfect all the time, So I remember getting sick with some around that age, like 19, almost going on 20. I started getting very dizzy, very like vertigo symptoms. I was getting like headaches, all that stuff right now. And I thought it was because I was taking so much workout supplements, because I was, for a long time, I never took steroids or anything like that, but I always took like, a bunch of pre-workout, all these stimulants, like all these like creatine, testosterone boosters, all that stuff, all the type of stuff that these like fitness channels like or like YouTubers that they like sell. I would basically experiment with all that, because I was working out extremely hard and all that. And I remember, I thought it was stuff like that, so I remember I threw all that stuff away, all the caffeine. Like I didn't throw it away all at once, but I remember I started throwing away almost everything, stopped using most stuff. And I thought it was that. And I thought it was because before this, like right when I started feeling all these symptoms, I was like, I did like an amateur bodybuilding competition. So I got extremely low body fat, right? I was like, because in my youth, right, I was very out of shape. So in my head, I still want to prove like myself or people wrong when I got picked on for being like fat or out of shape. I was already in shape to begin with at that point, but I wanted to be a very low body fat just to prove a point, right? And I was like, and I got down to like 6% body fat, very, very low body fat. And I remember after that, I thought I got sick because of that, because that affects your hormones, right? Because you lose a lot of muscle mass as well, not just fat. You lose muscle mass when you do that. And then, so I thought it affected my hormones, my testosterone. So then, like, I just immediately started like bulking up again, like eating as much food as possible, basically. And I did feel better for a little bit, but after a while, I felt the same or worse actually. So I knew it wasn't that, and I knew it wasn't supplements. And I was going to so many hospital visits at this point. This is already like when I was 20 years old, right? So after the age of 19, that's when I stopped working out completely, because I couldn't like walk. I could barely walk at this point. I was like super dizzy, headaches, sensitive to light, to noise. I would get like literally like I would be in my room at this point, like extremely like I was bedridden at this point. I could barely eat food at this point. Like I would eat food, my heart rate, I would wear like a Fitbit. My heart rate would always be, my heart rate would never go down below 120, 120 beats per minute. So that's like a lot, right? Because most people's heart rates, like a regular person's heart rate resting is like 70, 60. I mean, if you're really in shape, it's like 60, right? 59. But if you're like an average person, it's like 70, maybe like 75, 79. But mine was like 120 all the time. And before this, I was like very in shape, and I would always wear a Fitbit. So my Fitbit before this was like my heart rate. If you would go like on the app and check the heart rates, right? Like there's so much different variables, but it would say my heart rate would always be like 100. Like it would be like perfect. Like this is like heart rate, athletic, right? Athletic range, or like like all this, right? But then when I checked my heart rate at that point, it was like below average. It was like if I never like worked out at the end of my life, right? If I was like I felt like an old man, right? I felt like an out of shape old man. Even right now, like where I'm like halfway recovered, partially recovered, you can hear my voice, right? Like out of breath, and you can hear like my brain fog, kind of like I slur my words a bit. It's almost like I barely woke up, even though that's just how it is right now, because that's how it affects your nervous system. So I remember like just looking up everything under the sun on Google, because the doctors wouldn't believe me, right? I got blood tests, brain scans. I went to like the neurologist. I went to so many doctors for like 6 months. I had it for like, I had it really intensely where I was bedridden and house ridden for like around 2 years. So for like 6 months, I went crazy on the doctors, like blood tests. I got so many blood tests, like so many, like I can't even tell you how many. Like I could barely eat a thing. Where so I got like stomach tests, because I would eat. My heart rate would be like 160 when I was eating. That's like me. That's like someone sprinting, right? Sprinting. And I would eat. I had to eat every 2 hours. I would feel like myself getting so dizzy, but I could barely eat one meal at once. So I would have to eat every 2 hours, like blended up food, very little at once. I could barely like I was very sensitive to so many foods. I could barely eat. I forgot. I think I was just eating like blended food at that time. I was sensitive to so many food, right? I couldn't take any more caffeine at this point, because before I would take so much caffeine, like 2 or 3 times the recommended amount, right? So at this point, even if I drank a sip of freaking tea or decaf coffee, my heart rate would be through the roof, extremely dizzy. I was sensitive to all types of food I was sensitive to. And I remember getting like, I think I got like over 20 blood scans try to get all of these like diseases ruled out, right? I thought I had like, at one point I thought I had like brain damage, something from like all the years of sparring I had before. And so, but I think that wasn't the case. And I remember I went to the neurologist, got brain scans, heart scans, like I got heart monitors and all this. It all came back like, oh, you're fine. They were like, you're fine. You just have anxiety. You just have depression. Like, why don't go outside for a walk? I'm like, I could barely walk, I could barely like take a shower and stand up on my 2 feet for more than like 30 minutes. Like, how can I go outside and walk, So if I went outside and walk, I tried to, I tried everything. I would feel like a zombie, like literally zombie walking. And I remember after that, I looked up so many things online, and I came across a program called CFS Recovery, because there's so much. I didn't know what CFS was. I'm like, what's POTS? What's CFS? And CFS means chronic fatigue syndrome, right? When you're always fatigued. It's basically like a hypersensitive nervous system. And so when I joined the program, it's like a lot of people in the program, but the guy who created the program, his story was like very similar to mine when I looked on his YouTube channel, right? Of course, a lot of people have this, but it's still a very rare illness, right? I mean, it's not like mainstream. It's not like a severe mental illness, severe like cancer or something like this. So, I mean, it's very severe, but it's not known. So like, I mean, if I knew this was possible, right, I would have never I would have like thought twice about pushing my body or my mind, right, to those limits of stress. But so when I saw his video, like his story was very similar to mine, right? He was like a personal trainer before this, like one of the mentors in the program, right? He used to like be very into working out. He was like a wrestling team captain, all this. So I'm like, man, like this guy used to be athletic too. I'm like, that's crazy, right? So I related a lot to that. And I remember like how he was like, it tells the story a little bit how he was sick, how he was better, and how he was like in the ICU, right, in the emergency room, just like me, like. And so I remember I was like at this point I was very depressed, right? Basically my whole life was taken away from me, right? I was just like confined to a dark room, because even noise outside, right? If there was a car outside, the cars outside would feel like a racetrack in my ear, like literally, like that's how sensitive I was. They would feel like it would feel like Fast and the Furious was outside my door, even though it's just like cars going like slowly across the street. And like my mom or sister would turn on the light in the house, and it would feel like someone threw like a flashbang, like right, like if you ever played like Call of Duty, like a flashbang and like explodes in my eyes. That's how light the sensitive I was, right, to light, to like anything, to the water, to if I took a shower, it had to be like medium temperature water. If it was too cold, if it was a little bit too cold, it would feel like ice on my body. If it was like too hot, it would feel like someone was burning me. And I could really stand it. I had to take seated showers because I couldn't shower standing up because I would feel so super dizzy. It's almost like every day I would feel like I was like in insomnia mode. Like not, I could barely sleep. I couldn't sleep well at all, but it would feel like I didn't sleep at all, and I would feel like I was like hungover or like drugged or something. That's how I feel every day, for like at least 3 to 6 months. And at this point, right, I lost all my muscles. I completely got back out of shape because I was basically bedridden, you know. And so at that point, I joined the program called CFS Recovery, and it did help a lot. I'm still in this program to this day, but it's been around 6 months, and it's really helped a lot. And a lot of it has to do with pushing your body, right? Like most people in the program, they get it from all these people. You know, this condition, you don't get it for being lazy. It's like something that you get if you're extremely hard on yourself, either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, any way, or all three, right, or all four. You get this for being hard on yourself, right? It's not, people who get this are not lazy. They're like the opposite, right? So people in the program, there's a lot of athletes, doctors, you know, businessmen, businesswomen, like very people that are very driven, right? Very hard, like very like driven people, but because as a human, you're not supposed to be like 100% like you gotta take breaks, you gotta take rests, whether that be physically resting or, you know, mentally resting. So like people who get this are always like driven. So almost everyone in the program is like has like some big accomplishment they had in the past. So I remember joining the program, and I remember like a lot of the stuff. It's called brain retraining, right? So you gotta direct the pathways to positive like emotions. Like right, even right now, I feel symptoms, right? Like I still feel slight dizziness, slight out of breath, but nowhere near where I was better. Like now, like right now, I'm just chilling in my couch, but um, I can thankfully walk. I can like at least handle some sort of social, because even social interactions, it drains you a lot. Social interaction, this illness gave me like social anxiety. It gave me a lot of stuff, right? Like a lot of problems. And so like now I can at least handle like at least once, twice a week, go out with my friends, my family, to the theaters, to, you know, to the mall, to the stores. I could handle that. I could handle like doing some like exercise in the mornings, or like, you know, an hour of like extra, some yoga, stuff like this. I could handle walking, you know, and so that I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm sure grateful for like actually be able to stand and shower myself and all this. But I mean, from where I was, right, when I was extremely in shape, I'm nowhere near that level, right? Nowhere. It's not even a thought of mine, right? To I'm like, oh, I really want to go back to like working out, go back to doing all this. That might be in the future, right? But right, I'm just thankful for where I'm at. But just the reason I did this video was just to like spread awareness on because right now it's so popular, right? And it's very popular to like, especially with men, right? Especially like young men, you know, young boys, like especially they look on YouTube channels. It's very popular. There's like alpha male mindset, 100% all the time. You know, like no imperfections. Like, but you know what I'm talking about, right? If you guys, most of the viewers I'll be watching this are gonna be men, right? So like all this like, you know, grinding mindset, always being hard on yourself, like be disciplined with everything, like all that. I don't think it's good. Like if in my personal opinion, from where because I followed it to a T, right? I don't think it's good because I mean we're human, right? We're not robots. We're not like we're not. There's not a movie. There's not like especially even social media. Like you can project. It's not a whole life story, right? There's trials and tribulations or struggles that go along. And like social media only projects the best of people's lives and the best of life, right? Only it doesn't project the reality, but I don't condone it, because I feel like if you did go down that path like I did, you're gonna get some sort of like a high, all right? Like you get your nerves. My nervous system got so wrecked that I have all these issues because of it now, right? Obviously, I'm better than where I was before, where I was like hospitalized. I was like in ICU, all this, but that's where I feel like it's a really it's good to, because even now that I'm recovering, I was still, I have goals, right? I want to get back to life, but now my goals have changed a lot more. And like now, like I meditate a lot, I like relax a lot. I think I take things a lot more easier. My perfectionism has got down a lot, and hopefully it goes down even lower, because perfectionism is not a good quality to have, guys. It sounds something good, right? I'm like, oh man, I wish I was perfectionist, but it's not a good thing. Um, and a lot of I mean, before, when I had like when I was before CFS, when I was very into working out and bodybuilding, I had like exercise disorder. I was like extremely addicted to exercise to an unhealthy level, right? Because a lot of people say like, oh, exercise is healthy, eating healthy is healthy, but I mean, it becomes almost like a mental illness if you get very obsessed with it, right? That's one of the big dents that got me in the first place here. Like over exercising, over dieting, all right, giving me a lot. It gives you a lot of like um eating disorders. It gives you a lot of like body image issues when you even when you're extremely when I was extremely in shape. I still had body image issues. That was like the most that's when I was the most insecure about myself, when I was like the most in shape, right? And that's why that thing that's the only way you can get to a certain level of you when you get to a certain level of like always going to yourself, it almost drives you insane, right? So that's when I kind of wanted to come across this video. So if anyone's like watches these videos about these guys where it says like push yourself, like 100%, be like self-disciplined to this level, I don't think it's good. Like, so if anyone's watching the video, especially if they're younger, right, where I was, or even my age, right, 21 years old, just think about it twice, you guys. Like there's always a time to do stuff, right, to be driven and efficient and stuff like this, but also like live your life and actually live a life that you actually truly want to live in your heart, right? Not just what society tells you to live, or like what other people tell you to do, or what you think that you really want to do. But think about it twice. Really meditate. Really think about your life goals and what you really want to do in your life, and enjoy every day of your life, right? Because nothing is promised, right? And one day you can be really good. One day you can have like these big dreams, and it can come crashing down, right? Because I was a very big proponent of the law of attraction. I would read all these books, the law of attraction, all these books like motivational books. It's just like if you believe it, and you can conceive in all this. And in my head, I was like, oh, I'm 13 years old right now, and I'm 21 years old. I'm being top of the world, right? I'm gonna be an MMA champion, or I'm gonna be like, Mr. Olympia, something like this, right? That's what I thought. And obviously, that's not the case today, right? And even though I followed to a T, right? I followed all the little bullet points, but we're human, right? We're human, and things can happen. So just be, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in like any type of religion or whatever you believe in, have self-love in yourself, and don't push yourself to a certain limit. Where always respect your limits, because your limits are very important. Limits are very, very important. Never say push your limit, because I mean, most people who say that have never really pushed their limit at all. Most people who propose, who like proposition those types of like thinking, have never really pushed themselves to a limit where it's a very high level of uncomfortability, where it's very like, it really degrades your soul, right? So most people on there, the people who like, if people understand what I'm talking about right now, and I don't want this video to be like a famous video. People that look at my videos and subscribe to this channel, I want it to be a small community of like people that actually like understand what I'm saying. Even right now, I'm kind of like just like ranting, but if you guys really understand what I'm truly saying, then it will come across in this video, right? And those are the people that I really want hearing this channel anyways. So thank you guys for listening to this channel, to this video, and I'll post every now and then just my thoughts and views about certain things. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and remember, this is the true lesson that I wanted just to keep from this video. But you guys would take anything from this like first crappy unedited video is, You know, like it's good to have limits. It's good to have goals. Respect your limits. Enjoy life day to day, and don't go like life is. There's no black and white, right? It's always in the middle, right? There's no good or bad. Life is always like in the gray zone. So stay in that gray zone, and you guys will be a okay.